Hi guys, we are going to take notes on 1.3. Okay, so Module 1, Section 3, Lesson 3. Go ahead and label your next page in math with 1.3. Okay, now I think that the title of this is a little confusing. So they call this subtracting integers by adding the opposite. Okay, but I think I'm going to break it down a little bit easier for you. So really in this lesson, the only thing that's new is getting what's called a double negative, because everything else is what you're already doing. So look at this. Here's one of these problems. -7 and -2. Are the signs the same? Yes. What are the signs? What's the sign of 7? Negative. And what's the sign of 2? Negative. Do I need a plus sign there? I don't. Okay? It's just combining a -7, -2. This means the same exact thing because the negative is still attached to the 2 and the negative is still attached to the 7. Same with up here. We didn't need that plus sign. So this follows the rule of what we did before. It's same sign. Add the numbers, keep the sign. This is like saying I'm on a number line and I'm at -7. Okay, and I need to go back 1, 2, -2, and I'm at -9. It's the same exact math. Okay, so when they leave out that plus sign that you saw in the last lesson, I don't want you to be confused. Realize it's the same math. Okay, so let's look at this one. 3 and a -5. Okay, what sign is that 3? It's positive. They're just not going to put the positive. We know when they don't put it, it's always positive. What sign is this 5? It's that negative is connected to the 5. Think about it. Have you ever seen a problem like this? No, because it doesn't make any sense. Because that negative can't just float. It's connected to a number. Okay? So in this case, it's connected to the 5. Somebody else could have wrote it like this. It means the same exact thing. So we go back and we look at our rules that we learned last time. In this case, we have numbers with 2 different signs. So look at your rule. If you have to, flip back in your math notebook. Your rule was we're going to subtract. So we're going to do 5 minus 3. We get the answer of 2. And we're going to keep the sign of the bigger number. Which one's bigger, 3 or 5? Remember, we're talking absolute value. 5 is. And 5 is negative, so we're going to keep that negative. So far, this should be the same as everything else you've done. Let's do this with counters, okay? So let's make I'll make my yellows positive this time. And if you ever forget, sometimes I like to just put it right here. Okay? So I have 3 positives because this is positive 3. And then I have -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all pairs, which means they cancel and cancel and cancel, and there's 0. What's left? 2, and, sorry, I kind of moved those. They are negative. It is the same math you've been doing. Don't let it confuse you, okay? Now, with that being said, I want to show you what's new in this lesson. And really, this is the only thing that's new in this lesson. Sometimes you're going to have a problem like this, where it says 5 subtract a -3. Different than what we've seen before, right? We've seen things like this. We've seen things like this. But this double negative, that's where something is new. It's not this and it's not that. Okay? So I know there's a parentheses, but it doesn't count for what I'm about to say. When you see 2 negatives next to each other, make them both positive. It's that easy. Just make them positive. But make them both positive. Don't just make one positive or it won't make sense. And this is really, when I subtract a negative, I'm really adding. Okay? If that's all you get out of this lesson, the double negative, and you make them positive, go with it. Memorize it. Do it every time you see it. but I want you to hear the explanation. If I confuse you with the next part, it's okay. We'll come back to it later, okay? But I do want to tell you what it really means. So let me rewrite the problem. Let me get this out of here. So 5 and the negative 3. What this means is I am keeping, let's even get rid of the 5. Let's just talk about what a double negative means. This is what it means. Go back to owing me money, okay? So you owed me $3. That's negative 3. You owe it to me. But if I'm going to subtract that from your tab, if I subtract it from your tab, what you owe me, you don't owe it to me anymore. So if I'm subtracting a negative, I'm taking it off of the tab, I make it positive. Okay, let me say that one more time. So let's say I'm keeping a running tab, that's what we call that, of money you owe me. So you owe me 10 and you owe me 3. Okay, all together, because same sign, you owe me 13. But you give me $3. So I want to subtract this from your tab. Well, subtracting it, I'm not going to say you owe me 16 now, you just gave me 3. So subtracting it from your tab, one way of thinking of it, is really like adding it back in because you gave it back to me. And now you owe me back at that negative 10. Because you owe me $10. You gave me back the 3. We took it off your tab. We subtracted it from your tab. Like I said, if that part makes you a little confused, it's okay. We'll go back over that. So kind of to sum it up, just remember, anytime you see a double negative like this, or a double negative even with parentheses, and it could be any number, it doesn't have to be a 3, I just keep picking 3. You just make them both, all of them positive, and now you're just adding the numbers like we always add. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. If you're confused, please let me know right away. Why don't you just try one to make sure you get it? Okay, let's just try one. Because this is probably the most complicated one that you're going to do. So pause the video and see if you can sort through that, okay? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and assume you pause the video. Now, this is our double negative. Remember, I told you the parentheses don't count when I mean 2 negatives right next to each other. This doesn't change. That 8 is still negative. But instead of subtracting, I'm going to turn that into an addition sign. Okay? So now I go back to my rules. I have a negative 8, and now I have a positive 4. So because the signs are different, I'm going to subtract. And I'm going to look at the absolute values, see which one's bigger. 8's bigger, so I keep that sign. So this is really a 2-step problem. You cannot do this problem in one step. One step, you turn the 2 negatives into positives. Second step, you now look, because you've changed the problem, now you have to reevaluate it. And we see 2 different signs. We subtract, keep the sign of the bigger absolute value number. Okay? All right. If you have any questions, please email me right away.